Hi, I'm Dennis, and I'm the founder of a private accelerator SaaS camp. I want to tell you a story how I really wanted to build an app for medical students and to grow it into a unicorn. I came up with this idea that medical students and myself are spending dozens of hours preparing for exams. And that's how I thought, well, there might be some pain to solve there. And I came up with this idea to build a no-code app in which you could easily prepare for your exams and store dozens of notes. I spent few months building it with no-code tools, and then I went to the students to ask for their feedback. I was trying to keep this lean development. I was always proactively talking to them, and as I was getting some responses, I was hoping, I will finish a few more features and they will finally come and start using my app. I was wrong because after I spent these months of building these last features and I finally reached out back to this 50 or 100 people, they didn't come. Few people joined the app, they played with it for a few weeks, and then even they churned. I felt so awful that I thought it might be the time for me to go back into the corporate world. That's how I learned the PACE framework, which now I rely on to grow startups and to break down their go-to-market strategy inside SaaS camp. And it stands for pain, audience, channel, expansion. When you're not sure that there is any pain in the market, think twice before building a startup in this niche. Successful startups are built on pain points that founders had themselves. That's because it is so much easier to grow a startup when you simply need to first solve the problem for yourself and then to find other people facing it. However, thousands of founders in this world approach things differently, the way I did. Instead of solving their own problems or some problems that they see are validated, they try to solve pain points of imaginary people from another part of the world or some folks they have no idea about. I've never studied in a medical school, and yet I thought that I will be the one to build a successful startup in this niche. Look, you've got massively higher success chances to build a successful startup in the market which you are super familiar with. When I tried to make an app for farmers, while I've never done farming in my life, guess what? My chances are astronomically lower than for a guy who spent 20 years on the farm and knows every single detail about the business. Instead of trying to solve imaginary problems, go for ones which are validated. By validated problems, I mean the ones which you see people are already spending money on, the ones that are causing you a lot of pain. Ideally, they would be recurring and repeat every single week or a month. And the more money people are already spending to solve them, the better it is. After you identify the market's pain, it's crucial to understand who is this audience who are experiencing this pain the most. Many times what I see with founders who approach me is that they identify the pain right and they see that yes, sure, someone is already struggling with it in the market, but what they don't get is the audience is wrong. No matter which problem you pick, there are gonna be people struggling with it more and less. For example, take this thing with purchasing apartments. I am considering to purchase an apartment in future, and for the moment I don't have a burning need to find a new flat. However, imagine myself a couple weeks from now and I get moved out my house. Guess what? I immediately become the ideal buyer persona for the person who is growing such app because I now have an urgent need to get a new apartment. And immediately I have to spend 100 times more to get a quick solution to my problem, because otherwise I'll end up sleeping in the park, which I don't want to do in February. When you're thinking about the audience for your product, think about those people who are facing this pain point most. You always will have top 3 buyer personas, and your 3 buyer personas are going to be those people who are struggling from it most, spending most money on it, and basically it's costing them a lot of time, effort, and so on. Yesterday I was breaking down a go-to-market strategy for my friend, and he wants to grow a startup in AI mid-journey field. Think Fiverr, but for AI gigs. And he came to me with a request of understanding where does he go forward with his startup. What we did was figure out, okay, what's the pain there is in the market, how can we validate it, and who are these three people and buyer personas who are facing it the most. That's how we realized that it makes much more sense for him to reach out to those businesses who are in IoT, in Internet of Things, because they have to do a lot of prototyping, and for that reason they would be ones paying most for his solution. The more thoughtful you are with choosing your audience, the easier it is going to be for you to grow your business. Then there is channel. And channel means that for each buyer persona there would be one ideal way to get in front of them. For some enterprise solutions, it might be content marketing, just because people are so careful with letting anyone inside the door. However, for majority of B2B mid-sized businesses, it's going to be cold email, LinkedIn, and channels like this. Sometimes you would more heavily rely on ads, but it all depends on the unique product you got and what type of the market you are in. The better you pick the channel, the easier it is going to be to grow your startup. Why? Because say someone wants to sell me their startup with podcast marketing, and they do a lot of affiliates and they try to collaborate with many influencers in podcasts, but I personally don't listen to podcasts as much, and the easiest way for them to reach me would be either cold email, Twitter account, or LinkedIn, or actually even in YouTube comments. The more thoughtful you are about picking the channel, the easier it is to get in front of your ideal customers, and the easier it is to grow your startup, just because your sales cycle becomes much shorter. And that's exactly why you got to do a lot of testing at the start to understand what are those channels which you have to be relying on. Then there is expansion. And expansion means that after you validated your pain, understood your audience, and know the channel that you are going to be using for your customer acquisition, then it's all about optimizing your existing funnel, figuring out, okay, how do you improve UX such a way that people are returning to your product more often? How can you improve conversions on each step of the funnel, such a way that you'll be spending less and less money on customer acquisition and getting most people inside your door and inside your product. When it gets to expansion stage, usually you would be looking at such channels as SEO, ads, collaborations with influencers, affiliates, and stuff like that. The PACE framework starts with P for a reason, just because, as you see, when there is no pain in the market, I end up spending half a year trying to ship this fantastic unicorn solution for medical students who don't even need this. And that's how every single other step fails because of that. 90% of startups fail for the exactly same reason. They are trying to solve imaginary problems for people who don't even have them, and then try to push their product inside their face. However, when you think about everything problem first and pain first, it's easier for you to understand how you reach out to them and get into their doors, and how you later on get more people into your door, and how you reach out even to more people in the expansion stage. This was a breakdown of PACE framework, which I have already used to create go-to-market strategies to more than 50 startups. And if you feel that your product is not where it needs to be, let me know and we'll fix it.